But now that inflation's high and rates are high, it's going to hurt everybody.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. I got a request from a listener. Thank you very much, Brian. You're awesome. But he wants to know what's happening in the economy. You know, what's happening in the Toronto market, real estate market. What are you guys seeing?
We're noticing a couple spikes in activity in certain markets. It seems like some areas are commanding offer nights again. It's still too early in the year to tell exactly where our trajectory is going, but it seems like some people are jumping in right now.
Yep. Same.
New year, new you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I got some stats from December's numbers. This is year-over-year stats. Sales are down on aggregate for the whole Toronto Real Estate Board at negative 48.2%. So negative half. The amount of sales dropped by half.
Mm-hmm.
New listings is at, I think, like 11-year low or something like that, but we're at minus 21%. Active listings are up by 169%.
Mm-hmm.
Average price is down by, ready? How much? How much do you think?
Depends on the area.
Okay, but overall, Treb.
600,000?
Minus
Overall?
9.2%.
Oh,
So it's just like
6%.
9% or so, right?
Mm.
Down. This is year over year. Don't forget, it's not for the entire year on aggregate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Home price index is a different thing. Anyway, you got the average property days on market. So we're looking at 110% higher. So where it used to be 19 days on average is now 40 days on average to sell a property.
Mm.
So that's just year on year average. You can't look at that and treat it as gold because you know what? It's a lagging indicator. It's not a leading indicator. It doesn't show you what's going to happen in January.
For sure.
So as you say right now, we're noticing that there's a spike in bidding wars.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because sellers don't know how to price things and they want it sold,
Yeah.
right? If they're on the market, it's because they want it sold.
Well, I also think there's a spike in activity because as of 6 days ago, there are some murmurs of potentially more stringent lending rules coming into play. Like we're not just talking about the mortgage stress
Freaking
test.
headlines, man. You know what it is?
Headlines.
That's
It's
what it is.
scaring people.
Media is always
No.
like that.
Obviously, you know what they said? They said they're evaluating
They're evaluating.
other
Exactly.
lending rules. So OFSI is the Office of Superintendents,
Yeah.
financial institutions, something like that. Anyway, they're the ones that set the banking rules, and they want to set banking rules for the A lenders, not the B lenders, whatever. But like that, they want to not use line of credits up. They want to maximize line of credits to 65% or something like that. So they're exploring some more options, but nothing's been announced. Probably isn't going to happen. And stop listening to that media.
But it's weird because the moment that comes out, suddenly it's noticeable and you suddenly see more activity and you suddenly see more buyers out
Because
there.
everyone's like that. They're sitting down. The first thing they just look at the media. They hear the first thing they hear from like their mom's friend who's not even in the game. You know what I mean? And then they get excited. It's just the same thing like last year. The same thing when pandemic hit. Right? Everyone didn't know what was happening, and then all of a sudden, in the flip of a week, it became like such a frenzy. You know?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like yes, the market does move fast, but I think OFSI, back to that, I think they're warranted from trying to tighten up lending. I get where they're coming from because, it is kind of getting scary out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then, if they do that, it's just in addition to higher interest rates, to all these extra policies, ban on foreign buyers, all this kind of stuff. It's just like so many conflicting forces of everyone trying to protect their interests, right?
Yeah.
So OFSI doesn't want the banking system to crash, obviously. Bank of Canada wants to control inflation, which is very important, by increasing interest rates. There's an article today that came out from the Scotiabank chief economist, Jean-Francois. He basically said that he doesn't think that the Bank of Canada will get it down to 2%.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think they'll ever get it down to 2%, at least maybe in the future, but not this year.
Yeah.
So what do they have to do? They have to keep raising interest rates,
Yeah.
which is going to be scary, right?
Yeah. Very.
Yeah.
He was saying that Tiff Malcolm has to get it down because otherwise it's going to be like he's going to lose credibility, which makes sense, right? Like, his
absolutely.
job is in jeopardy, right? Like
Yeah.
his role is in jeopardy, I should say,
Yeah.
job.
That's why he's taking such a hard stance.
Right. And it's like, everyone can comment on the past, that they kept it running too hot for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I've had a lot of buyers get freaked out before they start raising rates, saying that, inflation is taking over. I'm losing money. I got to put it somewhere. I have cash. I got to put it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought something and, it kind of sucks, right? Then they did that. Who would have known? Inflation is important to combat for sure because average consumers is certainly feeling it. But now that inflation's high and rates are high, it's going to hurt everybody, right? And that's why we're seeing these stalls in economies. And they're concerned that all these economists are concerned that we're going to get a hard landing, meaning that they're going to bring inflation down, yes, but in order to fight that, how many job losses are going to there?
Unemployment's going to be climbing way past it.
How much social unrest is going to be caused by this?
Yeah.
Right? How many other services are going to be cut and hurt and whatever, right? Economy's going to go to the crapper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the other option is to do a soft landing, make it easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were aiming for the soft landing before we hiked it up at 450 basis points. So I think that's kind of up in the air right now. I don't think they really have a plan on what to do, because there are also media outlets out there that are saying that, based on inflation numbers hitting 6.3% in December, it's unlikely that Bank of Canada will consider raising rates more than once
No one knows.
in the year.
No one knows.
It's like, yeah, exactly. No one knows. These are all lagging indicators, and we can't really predict exactly what Bank of Canada is going to do.
And they're acting based on lagging indicators. Hopefully they're looking at more leading indicators as opposed to just inflation numbers, because by the time you get inflation numbers, it's already too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good thing is that, you know, the peak of inflation was at 8.1% or something like that. Now we're down to 6.3.
Yeah, 6.3.
So it is trending downwards. So hopefully they stay put. They've been saying for the longest time, every single rate, at least the past 2 rate hikes, they've been saying that they want to, this is our last rate hike, or at least they're signaling that, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens on January 25th.
Yeah.
How is that affecting the real estate market though? Like, what are you guys seeing?
So in a similar vein, it's been interesting because we're also seeing talks about reduced developer levies, just to spur more supply and more increased housing for this whole situation to sort of tide itself over. But at the same time, that's approximately $5 billion in revenue that municipalities are losing out on. And that's going to come from somewhere, which means it's taxpayers, it's homeowners who are eventually going to be paying that. So it really seems like it's a band-aid solution that may in the short term create housing supply, but what that means for a long run, it just seems like housing's still going to be an issue. Housing supply is still going to be an issue.
Yeah, speaking about levies, it's just it's silly to me that like a new purchaser buying a 2-bedroom condo is paying $20,000 in fees for development levies or more, right? I mean, that's what the end purchaser is buying. I don't know what the developer has to pay on top of that, right? They, you know, I think like a third of it or a huge portion of
It's
it.
like anywhere from I think we saw anywhere from 25 to 40%. It was
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is all the levies, right?
Yeah.
Parkland levies, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it sucks that a new purchaser is paying $20,000 in additional capped in levies for a condo. Meanwhile, their taxes, the people that are in the using the community and whatever, paying what, like $4,000 a year, maybe less than that. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not a proponent of raising tax. I'm not saying that, but it's just like, you know, the new people are paying all the taxes, which I don't know. So like, I don't know the answer for this either. You know, I think it does suck. Ultimately, is there more supply coming in online? Like there's so many other constraints. It's not just the taxes, not just the cost.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, that definitely is a big crisis, affordable housing. And we're definitely going to do a video on that sooner or later.
Yeah.
But there's a big reason why this market's so scary, to be honest, right?
It's very scary. Like we have what was the Toronto's target for new housing starts? 100,000 a year.
150,000 a year.
150,000 a year.
Yeah, in the next 10 years. So 1.5 million in 10 years.
So in 2022, we only hit just over 45,000.
Yeah. Well, that's Ontario though, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely need more supply. That'll control the cost of affordable housing.
Yeah, affordable housing.
But I heard the other day on one of the news, they're talking about how in 2024 most likely it's going to go up by 3.5%.
What's going to go up by 2.5%?
The housing, the sales. Korea, they were talking about how it dropped. Obviously, 2023, they're looking at it as more like it's a recovery year, and then 2024, it should kind of like, even though it's not like a big hike, go up to 3%, but it's still like kind of on a road to recovery.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of pressure from below in terms of prices, right? In terms of 500,000 people coming to Canada as the target immigration, right? And majority, I don't know what the number is, but I've heard anywhere from a third to a half come to Toronto. So that's like so much demand coming here. It's going to push up the prices. And if the interest rates come back down and inflation kind of is in check, then people are going to start buying again.
Yeah. And a lot of home, like what we're seeing right now, obviously, especially in like certain area, like Markham, like we talked about earlier today, they're seeing multiple offers is because I guess the people that's been waiting on the sideline, they're just kind of like, they have no choice. They got to look for something, right? Yeah. So it's like, hey, I got to get to the market now before, you know, the savvy buyers that they're going to be realize, hey, if the price did go down, I mean, the interest rate do go down, we're going to end up becoming in the seller's market again. So they kind of
it happens
take an
really
opportunity.
fast.
Yeah,
it does happen. If you guys remember, like when all of a sudden there's like a couple bidding wars, like, hey, what the heck? And then all of a sudden there's like everything's a bidding war.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what's going on here, right?
Yeah, when I first started my career, I was trying to list a 1+1 condo in Mimico, and no bidding war, just had it sitting out on the market, and then sold it for under list. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks afterwards, it was bidding wars for everything.
Yeah, no one knows. You know, I thought real estate was used to move slower, but actually I realized that now it moves really fast. I sold a condo recently, somewhere before the interest rate cycle, right? So I sold it for 600,000 or 595. Then like literally a month later, it went up to 640 or something like that. Like, oh, I missed out.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, right after that, like a month later, even after that, rate hiking cycle started.
Yeah.
And then prices slowly start declining in Toronto. Like it's not so bad for the 1-bedroom condos.
Yeah.
But it's like, how does it move so fast, you know? And now I don't think I could sell for 600,000 if I still had that condo.
Right.
Right. So it's like, what just happened there? You know, no one expected this.
No. It's difficult to have an idea of exactly what real estate is going to do. Even our own policymakers aren't entirely sure exactly what's going to happen, which is why they apply all these policies to try to mitigate worst case scenarios.
Yeah. And real estate is not one of those things where you know exactly what the price is. There's no bid ask like amount that you see in the stock market. That moves really fast. But like, you know, there's no price discovery because no one knows what it's worth really. You can have a range, but that range is huge. That variance is huge because it depends on the situation.
Right.
A seller could be desperate to sell. A buyer could be desperate to buy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so like that's where we come in as negotiators, right?
Yeah.
To kind of figure out the situation and try to get the best prices for our buyer, the lowest price for the buyer and the highest price for the sellers. Of
course.
Right. And that's why we have jobs really. And as much as people hate real estate agents, this is what we're here for. It's a high ticket item, right? That needs a personal touch or someone that's experienced to be able to know how to sell it, how to make the deal happen.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's not always the price that makes the, you know, a winning situation. Right. So anyway,
it's the unit itself, like the property itself that actually sells it. Cause like before you could just get any like let's say 1+10 and you could sell it easily. Right. So right now it's more like if it's a good property for sure, you're going to get a great price for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you need a skilled negotiator to help out of that, right? Like I don't think it's true that the property sells itself. Like I think there's certain things that you could do. Like you could be leaving money on the table, in other words, if you're not doing
it does
properly.
help though.
Look at all angles, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's where experience comes into play as well. Like last night I was talking to somebody about a mortgage foreclosure, for example, like a power of sale. And I know they left money on the table, absolutely left money on the table. It's like, yo, I had a buyer for this, you know, if you just let me give a chance to put an offer in. So they accepted an offer really, really low.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately the second position is going to be cut out of it and they're going to lose money, but it is what it is, right? So that's where a skilled negotiator comes in. Anyway, all that to say that it does move fast, but you can't time the market. You can't really tell. Like, I think it really depends on what your situation is.
Yes, absolutely.
What's your goal? What's your 3 to 6 months goal, or like a year or two where you want to be in the next like year?
Well, not even that. I think it's more so, why are you buying? Why are you selling? Why do you need to do this? Do you need to do that? Like, is there another investment vehicle that might be better for you if you're doing it for investment? If you're doing it because you have another kid on the way or something, you need more space, that's a different story. Are you doing it because you want to cash out of your property and just rent instead? That's also another story. Is there, you know, like a situation where you can't pay your bills or whatever and you want to rent? Yeah, okay, we'll help you out there, right? If there's a situation where you're so sick of renting and you want to start buying, like I'm helping somebody right now doing the same thing. They just don't want to buy, they don't want to rent anymore.
Yeah, rent prices keep on going up.
Right, especially if you're in new rent control building, because sooner or later, all of these properties are going to be rent controlled, not rent controlled, I should say.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, you're going to be forced to, you know, at the mercy of the individual landlords, which kind of sucks too.
Yeah, there's a quote that we've been talking about a lot, especially when it comes to hindsight. It's like the best time to plant a tree would have been yesterday, but today's the day that you can actually plant one and make a decision.
Right.
Like, we don't know what the future holds.
Right. And, you know, the only piece of advice I have to any of our listeners is that real estate is a long-term game. So don't go in it for the quick flip. You could potentially lose your shirt, right?
Yeah.
You got to plan to hold it for at least 2, 4, 5 years. I think 5 years is the perfect sweet sauce. It's the perfect time. If you can hold it for longer, even better, because if you hold it for 25, 30 years and you don't do anything to the property, you don't refinance, whatever, it'd be paid off, because that's what an amortization is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Amortizes in a residential property anyway. Amortizes over 25 to 30 years. So if you can hold it for the long term, make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you do the right, you know, ask yourself the right questions of what your goals are. Is this the property? So, like, in other words, don't just buy anything. Don't just close your eyes and buy anything. As much as, you know, that could help as well too. But just know that if you close your eyes and do anything, you're going to be stuck with that for a long time in order for it to make sense.
Yep.
So that property I bought in Barrie a while back during the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, when prices started to rise like crazy, I'm like, oh man, that was such a bad decision. But I'm stuck with it for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I lose money, right?
Yeah.
So moral of the story, it doesn't matter what the market is doing. I think I think what really does matter is that you're in it for the long run. I did a video a couple podcasts ago. I did one with Glenn where it says who's winning in this market. And who's winning in this market? Who are you guys seeing? You guys remember?
People who have assets, who are able to make sound decisions and aren't necessarily being forced into moving.
So people have cash that potentially want to buy. People that are...
Can leverage.
Let's get a little more specific. I would say the person that has a condo, right? You could sell it at 9% loss, whatever it is, right? The average price for a downtown condo, maybe down 10%. But the average price of a freehold property somewhere else, or like a semi, whatever it is, right, is down by like 15, some cases 20, some cases 35%, depending on what areas you're looking at.
Yeah, right? Especially in the 905.
Milton, Brampton, Markham, some areas like that. If you got to take a 10% hit, fine, and then move it to another place that took a 30% hit. Port your mortgage if you have a fixed mortgage, where you're paying your 2% interest or whatever it is for that portion of it. Say you have a $700,000 condo and you have a $500,000 mortgage on it. Just say, right? Take that $500,000, move it over at the 2%, and then the new property you buy at like $1.3 million. Let's just say you're buying it for $1 million mortgage now. All of a sudden you qualify for that. That extra $500,000 will be at the 6%. You blend the two rates together. On average, it's going to be 4% of a mortgage rate.
Yep.
So now you got a nice big house,
and all of a sudden you have the perfect opportunity to make that jump from that little, it's like jumping up that ladder, right? That gap is just so much smaller than if you waited till longer, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or the other example that Glenn said was, what about the person that has the mortgage completely paid off? A $3 million house, let's just say. And you sold for $2.8 million instead. You took a little bit of a hit, right? Like a 10% hit or whatever it might be, right? Take that money, invest it put in a bond at 5%, right? Put in a private mortgage, like a safer private mortgage, lower loan of value, and get 12% on your money. Right? So there's a lot of opportunities where you can win. And first of all, for that person, take that money, right? That rental income that you have. So say you put $2 million in a 12% fund, whatever, right? That's 20 G's a month. At $2 million bucks, if you think about it. 20,000, you can rent a place for like 5,000, 6,000.
I mean, if you want to stay downtown, you don't even have to do that.
Yeah, you can retire, really, right? But if you have $2 million bucks, so say you have a $3 million house, you sold it, you took $2 million out, that $3 million property would, first of all, you need your minimum 20% down, maybe even more, maybe 25%. You're paying like at today's rates, $12,000-$13,000 a month, but you can turn around and rent that same house because somebody's owned it a long time ago and their mortgage is probably lower for like $6,000-$7,000. So you don't own the property, but you're renting it instead. Maybe that's a way to do it.
You have a lot of cash.
I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. Forget about where the market's at today. There's opportunity in every single market. So,
Cool.
Just got to find it and talk to an experienced agent.
It's about situational. It's very situational. So, okay, anyway, with that, if you guys have any questions, there's always a link on our website, broadviewavenue.ca. Just click on the book an appointment, and then you can have 15 minutes with one of us. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not, and talk soon.
Peace.
Add it up.